Good morning. It's a beautiful morning here at Unity of Charlotte. Yay, we're here. We're here for a soft opening, and you're invited to the grand opening next Sunday, and a little bit more about that in a couple of minutes. So the reason we've got this festive atmosphere here at the church is because our wonderful opening committee that is in this audience right now decided that we needed to make sure that we were properly ready to open up for everyone. And so last week was our first week, bit of a surprise to all of you when we were hooting and hollering and celebrating with our masks on for comfort. And when the board told me that we'd be ready to open soon, I tried to take a breath and said, okay. And guess what? They did a marvelous job. There's a tremendous amount of preparation that's gone into this, and we are truly ready for next week. And we'll meet again right after service for a couple of minutes for that discussion on all the things that we need to have ready for you next week. I want to just give you a little bit of information. Our committee has guided us by setting the right tone for this reopening. And the three words are celebrate, comfort, and fun. We are going to have a wonderful celebration next week. We are going to be comfortable, and that's why we've decided to continue with masks next week, because some people feel more comfortable in a mask at this point in time, and to have fun. So it is going to be a real fun atmosphere. And thanks to our marvelous reopening committee, and especially Michael Brown, he decided that we should celebrate with a masquerade, something like this, or maybe like this. And there will be mask options for everybody to pick from next week. Or if you've got a favorite at home that you want to bring, please do. We're going to have a wonderful time, and we're going to have music. It's going to be marvelous. Just a comment from me. Last week, I was truly surprised at what happened within my heart. Seeing you and you and you and you being together. And I actually got a call from somebody that was here asking me how I was doing, because she noticed how filled up I was by this whole experience. So I want you to be part of this. It's been a long year, and part of our celebration is the fact that we have not only gotten through it, but we are in an even better place now. We have learned things over the year, things that we never thought we needed to learn. At least I know that for myself. And we're in a different place now. We value things in a little different way than we did before. And I can say for myself, I value a lot of people that were in my life that I didn't get to see for the last year. So thank you. Thank you for being with us this morning, and we really look forward to this wonderful service and next week. So I want to do our formal opening right now. Welcome to Unity of Charlotte, where our mission is to nurture a deep and mature experience of God through the practice of unity principles. And simply put, we are here to love, grow, and serve. I'm Reverend Pat Dre, and my joy in having you with us this morning continues to grow. Let's start today's service by sharing our statement of oneness, and then we'll follow that with a short prayer. There is one power and one presence in my life and the universe, God, good omnipotence. And now, in keeping with celebrating Memorial Day weekend, Memorial Day tomorrow, I want to encourage everybody to enjoy themselves. There are new opportunities to get out into the community safely and enjoy yourself in ways that haven't really been available. So do have a really wonderful long weekend. And also remember why we're celebrating this. And I think that the celebration means more perhaps after this year of being fairly sequestered. We deeply, deeply appreciate those who have served our country through the centuries. And on Monday, Americans across the country will remember brave people, women and men who gave their lives for our country. And whether you plan to observe the holiday with a parade, a service, a prayer, a moment of silence, a meditation, please know the following with me as you celebrate. And taking a breath in and letting it go. We know through our spiritual teachings and in our heart of hearts that there is only one. The unity of all of life is clear to me now and comes home and into my heart. I know fully well there can be no separation. My heart is filled with love and appreciation and respect for all the people who have served to make America, the U.S., a wonderful place. And in my heart, I already send my thanks to people who are investing themselves in new ways of bringing about peace and harmony and respect and love for the integrity of all of human life. And I'm reminded that a hero is someone who understands the responsibility that comes with her freedom. And those were the words of a great poet and musician, Bob Dylan. So today we remember all of our heroes, those that have served in the armed forces, and so many that have served our country in other ways, and those who have served humanity this year of COVID. I know that heroism doesn't always happen in a burst of glory. I know and see around me many heroes who have never had a moment of glory except the one that the soul knows. Allow me in my own way to accomplish small triumphs, to have a large heart, and to truly link arms with those around me. And in that linking, be it physical, be it virtual, be it spiritual, give me and all of us the courage that we need to change the course of history that needs to be changed in the right and proper direction. This is my prayer, and I know it to be true and unfolding as I speak, and in deepest gratitude for all and for this idea of being in service and respect for human life. Join me in saying, and so it is. Amen. Just a couple of reminders about what will happen next week. We will have music. We will have the Unity Festival Choir. We will also have Reverend David Torres as our guest speaker. He will be meeting with the Board of Trustees for our retreat on Friday evening and all day Saturday. And you're going to be part of a wonderful service of celebration with Reverend Torres. Please wear your mask. You'll be reminded at the door. It is for the comfort of all. And keep social distancing. If you, and many of us are fully vaccinated, and if you're fully vaccinated and you wish to hug somebody, check with them first. But the rest of the time, just maintain a little social distance to give us just a little space till we get acclimated and a little more vaccinated. Those are two good words, acclimated and vaccinated. We have a comfortable area outside of the sanctuary where you can remove your shoes, and we do this as a Sikh tradition and a respectful one. You may wear socks, you may have bare feet, whatever your pleasure is. We have wonderful shoe racks and places to sit out in the hall to remove your shoes. I'll tell you just a little bit about Reverend Torres. He has been an ordained minister for over 20 years. He has served as minister for a number of Unity churches, and he also has formal roles with UMass and United Worldwide Ministries. He is currently serving as an interim minister for another Unity church in South Carolina, and we're delighted to have him. And now for some of our announcements. I will mention to you the 5 Unity principles. The one that I'm going to talk about today is action. And I'm reminded of the action of so many people who have been very courageous and very heroic, whether they know it or not, to serve others, especially during this last year. Frontline workers, people taking care of their neighbors, taking care of their beloveds during times of great personal difficulty as well. And of course, for all of those heroes who created this place of freedom and growing freedom, the United States. Action is important. And even if you don't feel like a hero, you in your own way are courageous as you step forward into life each day. So thank you for being part of Unity. And for our ongoing meetings, we have a wonderful new class that's starting up, the Path of Initiation with Barbara Rolfe. It is a series of 10 lessons, and it's lessons for your path to understand the source of your own wisdom and the embodiment of love that is your soul. This is the first class in a series, and it starts this coming Wednesday from 1 to 2:30 p.m. For more information, reach out to Barbara Rolfe. I do encourage you to, if you're thinking of it, check in with her if you're not sure, and just have a chat with her, and then you can make your decision. It is going to be a fascinating class. The first book is The Path of Initiation. It is a journey of self-discovery. And so we have the Unity Men's Group, which meets on Wednesdays at the church on the second and fourth Wednesdays from 9:30 to 11. Join these in-person discussions. There is also a virtual group on the first and third Wednesdays from 7 to 8:30 via Zoom. For more information, reach out to Michael Brown. The Affirmative Prayer and Meditation Group meets on Tuesday evenings from 7:15 to 8 p.m. Set a prayerful energy for yourself, your church, the city, and the world, and especially our mission-centric vision and are attracting the new minister that is coming here to Unity of Charlotte. The book club is meeting on June 20th, and the discussion is, who is my guardian angel? Do I have a guardian angel? And I'm looking at the rest of you, and I'm saying you sure do. But we'll find out the answer at the book club. The Course in Miracles meets every Thursday morning from at 9:30 via Zoom, and the links are all at our website. We are looking for a foster home for our coffee materials. We have one or two coffee pots and some other small items. If you are willing to take these on for us for a short period of time, it would be much appreciated. It would be better in your situation with your careful handling than landing in my garage. Just saying. Okay. Thank you for all of that. And now we have today, hi, Reverend Sally, so glad to have you with us for the power of spiritual consciousness. Delighted to have you, and delighted to have you on this holiday weekend. I look forward to your message. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Pat. It's just a delight to be here as always. One of my favorite groups in the whole world, Unity of Charlotte. And today we are talking about the power of consciousness, our spiritual consciousness. And I love how Reverend Pat opened things up by talking about action. We don't know what we know until we do it, right? And so I'm going to be talking a lot more about that. But I'm going to start off with a wonderful song that really encapsulates this whole idea. And the song is Everything is Holy Now. So let me share my screen with you and share the sound. And here we go.
When I was a boy, each week on Sunday we would go to church and pay attention to the priest. He would read the holy word and consecrate the holy bread, and everyone would kneel and bow. Today the only difference is everything is holy now. Everything is holy now. And when I was in Sunday school, we would learn about the time Moses split the sea in two, and Jesus made the water wine. And I remember feeling sad, miracles don't happen still. But now I can't keep track, 'cause everything's a miracle. Everything's a miracle. Wine from water is not so small, better magic trick is that anything is here at all. So the challenging thing becomes not to look for miracles, but finding where there isn't one. When holy water was rare at best, it barely wet my fingertips. Now I have to hold my breath like I'm swimming in a sea of it. It used to be a world half there, heaven's second-rate hand-me-down. But I walk it with the reverend air, 'cause everything is holy now. another new morning come and say it's not a sacrament. I tell you that it can't be done. This morning outside I stood, I saw a little red-winged bird shining like a burning bush and singing like a scripture verse. It made me want to bow my head. I remember when church let out, how things have changed since then. Everything is holy now. It used to be a world half there, heaven's second-rate hand-me-down, but I walk it with a reverent air, 'cause everything is holy now.
Wasn't that beautiful? A chance for us to revel in the miracle that life is and that everything truly is holy now. And I love that song because it reminds me that when I start taking all that for granted, that I get to come back to that place of deep reverence and amazing grace, that everything around me truly is holy, including my brothers and sisters. And that's really what I want to focus on this morning in the power of consciousness. So I'm going to start by sharing my screen again with our PowerPoint. And let me get this where it's full screen. So, well, I just clicked the wrong thing. There we go. So starting with a quote by Dr. Ernest Holmes, a New Thought legend. One of the great difficulties in the new order of thought is that we are likely to indulge in too much theory and too little practice. Can you resonate with that idea that there's way too many of us that know a whole lot of scripture and verse, but we're not practicing it enough? He goes on to say, as a matter of fact, we only know as much as we can prove by actual demonstration. So when I stop to think about what he's saying there, I recognize that I truly only know that which I can demonstrate in my life. I can talk a good game about prosperity, about relationship, about loving others. But if I'm not demonstrating that in my relationships, in my bank account, in just how I live in this world, then do I really, really know? Or am I, as the scriptures say, just a clanging gong? And so I know that that is my role here, is to immerse myself so much in these principles that we talk about, that I truly am a living laboratory of what we say we believe. That's my job, is to step up every day into a place of knowing, truly knowing, because I'm living these principles, not just talking about them. I had something happen many years ago that was a wonderful way for me to jumpstart into this way of living. I was probably 18, 19, 20 years old, somewhere in that realm. And I was sitting at my kitchen table with my brother, who was a year younger than me. And my brother Jay had just gotten saved. He had joined a Christian church. My family never went to church. And so I was always the one hitching rides with families and going to Buddhist temples. I found ways on my own because I just had this unquenchable thirst for God. And Jay had decided that he was going to go to a Christian church with his friends, and he got saved. Wonderful, that was working for him. But that day at the kitchen table, we sat, and Jay started to pronounce that I was going to hell because I didn't believe the way he believed. And so I listened very kindly, and then I started getting annoyed because he was really starting to press on me. And I realized later that I was guilty of being intolerant of his intolerance. I was now practicing the exact same thing that I was getting annoyed at him about, because I was intolerant of his intolerance. And this was a wonderful way for me to wake up and go, oh my goodness, if I truly believe that I am here and I don't have to change anybody's mind about their religion, their passion, their spiritual way of life, that's on everyone else. And if I say in my spiritual lane, if I truly believe that, that means that I have to let other people do the same thing, and that I can't come into judgment about even when they try to force their beliefs on me. It really was a powerful way for me to wake up to the idea that I have to live from the very root of these principles, and that there weren't special dispensations for when I felt that I was righteously justified to have a different opinion or an idea of how someone should live or be. I had to live this. I had to live it. And so I've asked myself since then, do I really know these principles? Am I really setting myself up in the laboratory of life to understand? Because trust me, when you say to spirit, I'm ready to learn this lesson, it will come up, and everything that is unlike it will bubble up to the surface of your consciousness for healing. I know this without a shadow of a doubt in my life, because I've proven this over and over again, that when I'm ready to take it to the next level and I say to spirit, I'm ready, I'm available for my next lesson, anything that is unlike that I wish to be and learn will come up, will just simply rise to the surface for it to come into the light, for me to understand that it is now my time to heal this. And as metaphysicians, that's what we are. We go beyond the physical. That's what metaphysical means. We go beyond the physical to the idea of the inner realm. That's the most important work we're here to do. And I love how Reverend Pat framed that this morning, that without action, we don't know that the inner work that we've done is now coming out into the world in the form of love, compassion, kindness, whatever that might be, the quality of God that we wish to embody. Without action, it stays in my head, and there's too much of action only happening sometimes in my life from the neck up. I want it to be a full body experience, and that heart-centered, full-bodied knowing that I know what I know. This, I'm going to show you another slide from one of my favorite movies. And this movie came out many years ago. And the movie was called The Nun. The Nun Story. And it was starring Audrey Hepburn, who starred as a young woman who decided that she had an unquenchable thirst for God too, and wanted to enter the convent so that she could learn how to be a spiritual being. And so the very first scenes shows her being taken to the convent by her father, who was a very well-established surgeon in, I believe they lived in Belgium at the time. And so they're sitting in the anteroom of the convent waiting. The young girls that are there to go into the convent are waiting to go in. And a nun appears in the room, and Audrey Hepburn's father says to Audrey Hepburn, oh, that's Mother Superior. She's what's known as a living rule. And Audrey Hepburn says, what's a living rule? And her father explains to her that a living rule means that if the Catholic Church burned down tomorrow, and that every text, every sacred writing, every scripture was gone, vanished from the face of the earth, all someone would have to do to understand what Catholicism was to simply watch Mother Superior, the living rule, see how she lived and moved and had her being in the world, how she operated, and they could learn what the tenets and the principles of the religion were simply by watching her as a living model. And I've loved that idea ever since then, that could I be a living rule for unity, for new thought? Could I be a living rule for the spiritual principles that I espouse? I sure hope so. I know that I certainly am not, and I fall short on a regular basis. And yet, that's my goal, is I too want to be a living rule. I want to be someone who goes, oh, Reverend Sally, she lives what she says. She espouses the ideas, and then she lives as if that was her way of being. The last thing I want to do is talk about love and compassion and then get out on the interstate, and if someone cuts me off, send him a nasty, hand gesture, where I'm not living these ideas. Or if someone came up to me and said, really, you're a minister? Oh my goodness, I would not want that to be the case, because I know that each one of us is a minister. Each one of us, if you are listening to this message, you have signed up for the spiritual life in some way. And so you get to pick how that looks for you. What is your living rule? What are the values that you hold highest? And do you live those? This is a question that I ask myself on a very regular basis. Am I actually living what I say that I do? This is the power of consciousness, because we have to have it here first within our living, breathing, conscious efforts. And then we then get to move it out into the world. That's the whole point of us incarnating in this lifetime, is that we can go out and be that which we say that we are, and be that which we already are. Too many times the human world has added things unto us, and we've taken them on willingly, and now we get to take them off. No, that's not how I believe. No, I do believe that I'm here to love my fellow man, and that I don't have to other somebody else. See, this is the part that I realized with my brother, that I was othering him. And what I mean by that is that I was seeing someone outside of myself. And if I truly believe that we're all one, because that's one of our primary tenets in unity, is that we're all one, that if I go to that place of othering someone else, then I have totally demolished that idea in my head, and I'm not living that. That means that there's someone outside of me. If I truly come from a place of oneness, then I know that anything I do to harm someone else only harms me, because there's only one. There's only one. And so I know that the 10 Commandments were basically a guideline for us to know that I don't steal because I can only steal from myself. Does that make sense? You and I know that when we live from the place of deep oneness, where that I don't do anything, because I know that whatever I put out into this world comes back to me. That is the law of circulation, is a spiritual law. And so I know that if I live from that place of deep understanding, that to other someone else, or to other a political party, or it doesn't have to be an individual, it can be a group of people, it can be a country. I mean, countries have gone to war with each other because they've othered somebody else. And so just because you come from another country means that I'm going to other you. We don't hold to that idea. If we truly are in this universe to live from a place of deep and abiding love for our fellow man and woman, then we have to know, and we have to live from a place of conscious union with our God, which means every other person on this planet is also a part of that. This is so hard to practice. It's so easy to talk about and so hard to live. And that's why we're here. We get to practice it. It's a spiritual practice. You don't go to the gym one time and go, wow, that was a great workout. Don't need to do that again. No, we get to practice again and again and again that which we know. And nowhere is this harder than our relationship with others, as evidenced by my talk with my brother. It's very easy to talk about this when it's just me. But when I have to practice it with others who may exhibit some less than kind behavior, I like to call it unskilled behavior, that, someone who is not kind or compassionate or caring is simply unskilled in that realm. And so when I look at it from that perspective, I can give someone a pass, so to speak, and know that they are operating at the very highest level of their ability. And it's up to me to rise up to a place of even if hatred comes my way, I get to send love out in its stead. The last thing I want to do is repeat the cycle if hate or anything like that comes my way. Raymond Charles Barker, another legend in New Thought, had a church in New York City for many years. And he wrote a book called How to Change Other People. It was a great success because when people bought it, they thought, oh, good, I'll finally learn the secret of how I can get my wife, my husband, my child, my whatever, my coworker, my boss to change. They were deeply disappointed when they opened the book and read it and found out that the only thing you can do is change yourself. And when in the doing of that, in coming to a place of, what's mine here to change about myself? Magically, sometimes those people disappeared out of our lives. We're only working on ourselves. And yet, the vibration that we're putting out there now does not attract those that are unskilled. It is now only attracting those that have that same loving vibration. And then when they finally do show up, because eventually they will, as we move to deeper levels of understanding of this concept, we get to practice it again. But we can't change another person. If I could tell you how many times I've had people come into my office for counseling as a minister, hoping that they could get their spouse to change, I'd be a millionaire. But what I have to gently remind them is, you're not here to change anyone else. You're here to practice the principles that we know are the truths of our being. And in no greater way can we do this than that in relationship. Because that's where we start to work with each other. And sometimes the rough edges have to rub off until we become smooth and we can harmonize with each other. And we do this by simply extending love in every circumstance. If I don't treat my brothers and sisters with kindness and compassion and love, then I don't know these principles. If I other them in any other way, I get to practice again and again. There's no better story that I have found recently than this of a woman by the name of Rachel Chapman. Rachel actually lives here in North Carolina. She lives in the Research Triangle area. And in 2010, so 11 years ago, it was the eve of her wedding, and her friends threw her a bachelorette party. They were having it at one of the wedding party's homes, and there was a pool out back. They were gathered around the pool. They were having a good time, and everyone was smiling. They were so excited about the wedding the next day. And in a moment of just silliness, one of the guests, one of the wedding party, just pushed Rachel into the pool. It was nothing malicious. It was simply, let's have some fun with this. Unfortunately, Rachel was at the shallow end of the pool. And when she fell in, her head hit the bottom of the pool and broke her neck, and she was paralyzed from the waist down. Well, this was tragic for a young woman like her. And yet, Rachel decided that she wasn't going to treat this as a tragedy, and she certainly was not going to treat it as a victim. The power of consciousness was what she decided to work with. And so from that moment on, she decided she was going to have a full and rich life. A year later, she and her fiance did marry. And then they decided they wanted to have children. So they found a surrogate. And the surrogate bore them a child. And that child is now about 5 or 6 years old. And so she has gone on to lead a very rich life. But the thing I want you to remember about this story that really struck me was not that she went on and has created a happy life for herself, but the media attention that happened after this accident was huge, because she decided to forgive the young woman who pushed her in, who was a friend of hers. And so she showed up on the Today Show. She was on lots of national coverage, and they interviewed her again and again about how could she forgive. And she said, this is my work to do, is to forgive and to know that this is my life now. And yes, I'm paralyzed and I will make the best out of it, but I will not be a victim and I will not make her the villain. Well, the people who work on the Oprah Winfrey Show heard about this, and the producers called Rachel and said, we would love for you to be on Oprah's show. And she said, that would be wonderful. And they said, the only caveat is that you need to bring the woman who pushed you in, and also we'll have you sitting side by side, and because we're going to talk about forgiveness. And Rachel said, I'm sorry, I'm going to turn it down then. I've never named the woman who pushed me in, and I never will. I will protect her identity, because that's how I am moving beyond this. I don't need to make her the scapegoat of the villain. That's not what this is about. And I thought, wow, here's someone who had a chance to go on the Oprah Winfrey Show and said, no, thank you, because her principle was love. Her principle was forgiveness, not calling out someone else. That young woman who pushed her in will have to live with that for the rest of her life. And yet the forgiveness that she has been modeled again and again and again has been a far greater example of how to live in this world than anything else could have been. And so Rachel is my hero in that regard. Rachel is someone who has not only decided she's going to live from this place, but she's going to be the model of forgiveness. Here she is today with her young daughter, and on vacation. She's living a rich and full life and knows that the principle of forgiveness is one of her highest values. This is how I want to live, folks. This is who I want to be. Because when we refuse to be a victim, when we refuse to other someone else and make them the bad person in our story, and isn't that what this is? It's, we all have the dramas in our lives that come and go. Then that's where we get into trouble. Colin Tipping wrote a great book, and as far as I'm concerned, the seminal book on forgiveness called Radical Forgiveness. And this is what he says in that book. Know that the people in the story, because we all have our story, are living out their part in the divine plan. Do not see anyone as a victim and refuse to label anyone as a villain. People are just acting in dramas being played out so healing can occur. That last phrase, so healing can occur. So all the people who have come into my life that I have seen as villains are simply there so I have the chance to practice healing. Wow, what a radical shift. What a wonderful way for my consciousness to accept the responsibility for everything in my life and to know that the universe is always working for my highest good, and that my soul is calling in opportunities for me to heal at every moment. Every moment. This is the real power of consciousness. And this is where we get to continually live and operate from. The universe is simply a feedback mechanism that we get to go, oh, isn't that interesting? I guess I got to work on that a little bit more. Because just when I think I've got it, are you like me? Just when I think I've gotten a lesson, something else comes up and I get to go, I get to go a little deeper. I get to peel back another layer of this thing called forgiveness or love or kindness or compassion, whatever the lesson may be. There's another wonderful book that I highly recommend. It's called Ordinary Goodness. It's by Edward Fullion, who is now the spiritual leader of the Centers for Spiritual Living. And he wrote this book, and it's got great ideas about how you can find in the ordinary life, you can find just these nuggets of wisdom and compassion. And this chapter is called Kindness Isn't Weakness. And what I want to point out is how Dr. Edward really brings into full scope how our vibration, what we put out, always comes back to us. He says, being kind consistently takes strength and courage. Some think kindness is a sign of weakness, and that a person must be blunt and forceful if they want to be strong. That's certainly what the world teaches us, right? But he says, to me, real strength is the ability not to retaliate and not to attack when provoked. When I'm at the mercy of my reactions, I am weak because almost anything can set me off. And when I consistently allow myself to return unkindness for unkindness, I don't become stronger. I become more and more a slave to other people's unkindness. Man, take a breath after that one. If I continue to repeat the cycle of kindness, unkindness, and unkindness, and I'd simply return that unkindness, I'm simply setting off the cycle again and again and again. But the cycle can stop with me. The cycle of unkindness that comes into my world, I can stop and I can immediately say, I'm going to offer love instead. That doesn't mean being a doormat. That means being firmly kind and compassionate with someone who doesn't have the capability at the moment to do so. And that's all that is. I don't have to other him or her. I get to know that I take a stand for love, and that's all that matters. It doesn't matter what anyone else offers me. I get to offer love in each and every instance. I just had a really difficult conversation with someone who is a colleague, and he said some things that were not really kind. And I listened, and I had a very compassionate response to him. And then he said, "Thank you for hearing me." And I said, "I will always see and hear you with the eyes and ears of love." And I honestly wanted to be that. I honestly want to be that kind of person who shows up, because it absolutely diffuses whatever unkindness may be coming my way, even hatred sometimes. We've all had things that are just vile that have shown up, and we go, how can that be? But when we understand that there are simply people and ideas out there that they just don't resonate with me. And the higher I take my consciousness, the less and less I am exposed to that kind of thinking, that kind of action. And yet it's still mine to practice when it does show up, because I don't want to be repeating that. You know that phrase, hurt people, hurt people? Well, the hurt can stop. Even those of us who may have been harmed in some way don't have to project that hurt out into the world again, just to be passed on to someone else. They say, practice kindness and pass it along. Well, there's a reason for that. That is another universal law, that we don't want to pass on anything that we don't want to experience ourselves. So why would I pass anything along that is not the truth of my being? I don't believe in brutal honesty either, by the way. I've had people say, well, I'm just saying. Have you ever heard that phrase? That's usually about, it either comes before or after, sometimes when people are giving you that brutal honesty. I don't think honesty has to be brutal. I think that honesty can still be kind. It can still be something that comes from the heart, a place of deep compassion for someone else. And if I really love someone, and if I know that it is mine to say something, then I get to say that in as kind a manner as possible. And as a matter of fact, that's my job. I see that as my job. So even when I have difficult conversations, and trust me, ministers have difficult conversations all the time. Even when I have those difficult conversations, they can still be done in love. They can still be done from a place of seeing that other person as another spiritual being, beautiful and whole in their own realm. And I don't have to make them any less than who I am. That righteousness for righteousness' sake sometimes is so appealing to us, especially on the spiritual path. But that's a very vicious trap to fall into. I don't ever want to feel that I have the righteousness to feel above or more than someone else. That's not wholeness or oneness either. So how do I get to practice that? By showing up as my whole self. And so I'll show you again one of my favorite quotes. One of my favorite quotes coming from was one of the founding leaders of New Thought, and that's Ralph Waldo Emerson. And he said, "Let us take our bloated nothingness out of the path of the divine circuits." So when I get into my humanness, excuse me, it's real easy for me to step into that someone wronged me, someone did me wrong, and I can feel very self-righteous in that regard. But when I get back to that place of my divine connection, that inner self that knows that nothing can harm me because there is nothing to harm, the essential self of who I am, this meat suit that I'm wearing, that I'm carrying around, that's called Sally Robbins, is just the vehicle for that which can never be harmed. And when I truly know that, then I'm in touch with my divine circuits, and I can get my bloated nothingness out of the path. I can get my bloated nothingness out of the way. That's what Jesus, the great master, said. We have to die into ourselves every day. We have to be, that's what the real meaning of being born again is being born again into the divine consciousness and step away from the human consciousness that says, this is mine, that's yours, and don't even touch it. There's that wall that is put up in the human world, and I'm talking about not the physical, I'm talking about the invisible wall that we feel separates us from everyone and everything, when the reality is nothing separates me from my good or from anyone else in this world, and far be it from me to ever move out of that place of knowingness. And so one of my favorite stories comes from Colin Tipping's Radical Forgiveness book, which, by the way, if you go to radicalforgiveness.com, if you're really more interested in this topic, he has a lot of free things that he offers there on his website, one of which is his Radical Forgiveness Worksheet. And I've used that in many, many classes. The Radical Forgiveness Worksheet, when I have an instance where I feel the need to forgive, and that I'm feeling like there's a separation there between me and someone else, I get a radical worksheet, a Radical Forgiveness Worksheet, and it takes you through, it walks you through step by step to go from that place of the human mind to that divine self that knows the truth of who you are. And it shifts your perspective. It's miraculous how it works. And so Colin Tipping writes this wonderful book called Radical Forgiveness, and in it there's tons of other ways to forgive that I've used on a regular basis. But he tells the story in this book that I really love. He talks about how just as he was ready to print this book, it was going to the publisher. He was looking for someone who could be his like the author's publisher representative, and this person would get the book out there and market it and try to get him interviews and things like that. And he was really looking for that. And he was getting down to the wire because a week later, the book was going to be published on this other book, but this is before the internet, this book of books, which then was a listing so that people could look up and go, oh, I'd like to interview him about, his book. And so he found this woman And the woman said, yep, I can do this. And this is how much it'll cost. And he and his wife were interviewing her, and they were really rushed because they were trying to get this done before this book was published. And so they said, you know what? Okay, we're going to go with it. And so they signed the contract with her and they paid her the money. But he noticed right away that within a month or 2 or 3, that after the contract was signed and now the book was out there, and that Colin was doing a lot of the things that he thought he hired her to do. He was contacting, media people, and he was trying to get interviews. And when he finally questioned her and he said, isn't this what you're supposed to be doing? I feel like I'm doing this way more than I should be doing it, and you should be doing it. And she, hemmed and hawed. And finally, he said, look, I need the proof. Show me the letters that you've sent out to them. And of course she couldn't come up with that. So he fired her because she wasn't doing anything after taking his money. And now he's really mad because now he's wasted his money and he feels like, I hired her to do a job. And he says, as you can imagine, I was pretty upset. I was struck where all people who imagine themselves victimized go. Victim land. He says, and I was totally unconscious. I had my victim story all made up and took every opportunity to share it with anyone who would listen. As far as I was concerned, she stole that money from me. Have you been there where you feel like you are definitely in the right and you've been wronged? And he said, I needed to get even. I was well and truly stuck, and I stayed that way for several weeks. And I was supposed to be Mr. Forgiveness, he says. So finally, one of his inner circle said to him, well, have you done a worksheet around this? And he goes, no, I haven't done a worksheet. And I see no need to do that. And his wife said to him, you're the one who preaches this. You should be doing that. And he huffed and he puffed and he stomped upstairs and he did the worksheet. And he said, it was amazing what happened. He said, I had to read the statement because it has you read these different things, the steps you go through. He says, I read the statement. I released the need to blame and the need to be right. He said, that's when it hit me. The need to be right. All of a sudden it flashed before me what I was trying to be right about. I had a core belief that I always had to do everything myself. I saw that this incident was just another playing out of that belief. I then saw and fully understood that this woman was supporting me and become acquainted with my toxic belief so I could release it and open myself to greater abundance. Suddenly, all my anger evaporated and I saw how I had shut myself off from the very things I believed in and was teaching. At least I was conscious again. I could see now that this woman was an angel of healing for me, and I switched from feeling anger and resentment to feeling profound gratitude and love for her. What a switch. What a way for him to now come into a place of understanding he had called this experience in for his consciousness to have something to work on and grow with, to move to a newer level of understanding and appreciation. He now blesses that woman because she was an instrument for his good. And when we can get to that place of understanding that our power of consciousness is the only thing that matters, that's the only thing we're here to do, is to grow in that. All the rest of this is peripheral. Our jobs, our families, the way of working in the world. The only thing that we're really here to do is to work on our consciousness. And all of these things are supporting that. They're supporting that. I have found that every time I think I have the right to be angry or justified in my hatred of someone else, that it has left a burning hole in my consciousness and in my heart. And I have had to do the healing work around that. And when I think I'm done, sometimes I find I have to dig a little deeper and move to a place of deeper understanding about what truly happened and what my role in it was. This is the work. This is what we're here to do. We can't afford to hold personal animosities or even hidden hatred sometimes, because I've found that those of us who are in the religious and the spiritual world have a really good way of glossing over some of those things sometimes rather than really dealing with it. And the inner work is still there. And if it isn't healed, it will keep coming back through the form of someone else or something else until we get to that place where we are conscious and fully aware and cannot be activated to a place of hatred and disappointment and revenge, even like he was talking about. He felt the need to get even. And so I've been there, and I think all of us have been. And yet it's my work to, even if I stumble and fall, because I'm surely not perfect, when I get to that place, recognize it as quickly as possible and move back to a place of action, not reaction, of action, and trusting that even when I offer what may appear to others as letting them off the hook or whatever else that may be called, that's not mine to judge. It's mine to love. It's mine to show up as kindness and compassion. See, everything is holy now. Everything is holy, and everyone in our world is holy. And if I don't treat them that way, and if I don't treat everything in that way, then I'm the one who suffers. I'm the one who's not in divine alignment with my divine circuits. And so let's think about that this week. How can I use the power of my consciousness to keep showing up and to keep rewarding any kind of unskilled behavior that comes our way? Reward it with love. Reward it with compassion. That's the place that I want to be, and I hope you do too. Let's be a living rule for unity. Let's be that person that people go, yeah, that's how I want to live my life too. That's how I want to show up in this world. That's the conscious power that I want to embody in my life. I'm so grateful that each one of you are here today. Thank you for showing up, because you know what? A minister is only preaching to him or herself, and you're just along for the ride. I needed to hear this talk today, and I needed to prove that I know what I know. Thank you for allowing me the space to do that. Namaste. So let's take a deep breath in. We just processed a whole lot. Take a breath in and let it out, and know the truth of our being. What resonates with you, take it and use it. What doesn't, let it fall away. You are on your own path, your own journey, and I hope that there was something there that you resonated with and can use. And so I'm going to go back to sharing my screen to where we do know the truth of who we are. And so let me move out of this. So now our time of offering. I talked earlier about the law of giving and receiving. We know that that is a spiritual law, and it's not something that churches invented so that they could take up an offering. Those of us who are on the path truly know that we can't outgive God, and that we know that there is always something, whether you're offering a giant check of money or simply a smile or whatever that in between, we know that what you offer out into the world is what comes back to you. And so we at Unity of Charlotte, we know that we are the beacon on the hill, and that we are always attracting to us those who are also on the path, this journey, and that we're grateful that we can be here for others who are trying to find their way in this world and to be the lamp unto others that they want to be. And through your offerings, that allows us to do so. So we're so grateful for each and every gift that comes our way. And so we know that there are some of you who mail in your checks. There's those of you, and we're very happy about that. And there are many of you that simply give through our website. It's a safe and secure way to do that. You simply go to the website, and then you see where it says donate. You can click on that and enter your information, and 1, 2, 3, it's done. Easy, quick, safe, and secure. And so we're grateful for each one of you out there, knowing that as you bless us with your gifts, we can continue to now send those blessings out into not just Charlotte, but to the world, because there are lots and lots of people who watch our YouTube videos from all over the world and get blessed. So your donations, your gifts help us do that and to be the light that we want to be. And so we're going to close with our prosperity. We're going to do the prosperity blessing as we give our gift. So let's say this together. Joyously, I give this gift, knowing the divine presence blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God. Whew. All right. So now we come to our closing. I want to invite everyone that just a reminder of what Reverend Pat said. If you joined us late, she let everyone know, and you saw in the email newsletter that next Sunday we'll be back in person at Unity of Charlotte, and right there on Arrowwood Road. It's going to be wonderful to be back in place with masks and practicing our social distancing. So we hope that you can join us for that, and we'll have a special guest speaker for that as well. But let's end today with our prayer protection. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. Thank you again for showing up today. That with the consciousness that you are, we're grateful for each and every one of you. If you're watching us later, we're so glad that you found us and are tuning in that way. And just know that this Memorial Day weekend that you are loved, and that any veterans who are amongst us, we gratefully thank you for your service to our country. And we know the real meaning of this weekend is those who fought and died for us to have our religious freedoms, and we get to congregate and enjoy those privileges that the men and women who came before us died for. So thank you for being here today. Thank you for all that you do for our wonderful community.